What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Joining alongside Tim live in Green Bay. Obviously, I'm down here in Redneckville, USA, a.k.a. the great state of Tennessee. And it's great to see the YouTube comments are back. All right. I don't know what happened, but here we are. It's good to see everyone in here. So I know we got a bunch of people in here to chat football tonight. We got Omer in the house. We got Dane Stromstad. We've got Chris Nichols on both platforms. What's up, buddy? We got AFAM in the house. Omer he can block better than you. He's already going after Omer here in the chat. My goodness. Kevin Rogers in the house. Good to see you, buddy. We got Smitty. The whole gang here. United Bates, Larry Cano. That's the president and vice president right there, man. That's who I'm writing in on my ticket. I promise you that this year. Let's see. We got Greg in the house. Yeah, good crew in here. Jay, good to see all y'all. Appreciate you swinging through. So we had some big news break, obviously, Tim. Before we get into it, sir, how have you been doing, man?
Good, man. Happy to be back. Just made it back home to Green Bay this afternoon, and glad I had time to jump on, man. It's been a busy month of July so far, but glad to be back, talk a little ball.
Busy's good, but we definitely missed you, man. There's no doubt about that. So let's see. Larry Cano already stirring it up. How long until Tube disables the chat? It's a great question, Larry. Great question. We'll see what happens. So you guys just keep them in line in the chat, Larry, please, sir. I'm begging you. Because it's funny, Eric. The one day that Eric wasn't in the chat, all of a sudden nobody was allowed to comment. Funny how that works. So maybe it's Eric that's driving the ship. Who knows? But anyway, we had some big news break. Obviously, we'll just jump right into that. We definitely don't want to bury the lead. As Kenny Clark, you guys, if you watched or listened to the show yesterday, we talked extensively about Jordan Love, Kenny Clark, and we kind of went through the 2025 free agents. Here's the list right here. We won't go through them all again, but you guys know at the top of the list was Kenny Clark and Jordan Love, and we kind of talked about those are two of, I think, 5 or 6 that I would like to see re-signed. Obviously, Kenny Clark's gets done. And I will say this, the fact that Kenny Clark's got done makes you feel real good about Jordan Love because they're not going to sign Kenny Clark to a 3-year extension and not have the structure in place for the Jordan Love contract. But let's just dive into it right now. So this was a tweet that came out through Rap Sheet on Twitter at Rap Sheet. It's Ian Rappaport, one of my favorite insiders personally. I love him on the Pat McAfee show. He's just phenomenal on there. The sarcasm, you could cut it with a knife. But it says, paid again, the Packers and Pro Bowl nose tackle Kenny Clark have agreed to terms on another massive contract extension to keep him in Green Bay for the foreseeable future. He gets a 3-year, $64 million extension with $29 million in 2024 in a done deal by D. Hendrickson 4-1 and C.J. LeBoy of at Wasserman. Okay, so obviously that's the agency and the agents there that's attached to it. Now, there's a lot of different angles that we can take in covering this news here, and we'll kind of give you the information that we have right now. Understand, we won't know the complete cap allocation to probably a day or two. I know Spot Track is updating their website by the minute. I grabbed a couple screen grabs earlier, and it was the old contract, and then within like 10 minutes, they had some of the structure kind of that you could tell they're ready to add the info in, but it hasn't hit yet. So before I ask your opinion here, Tim, let's kind of dive into the details that we do know, and I want to get your take on it. So the old contract that was on Spot Track earlier today, and we've talked about this extensively throughout the year. Obviously, you had 3 voidable years for Kenny, right? He'll be becoming a free agent in 2025. And basically on the voidable years, you had a $5.4 million restructured proration on 25. You had the same on 26. And then in 2027, you had a $2.767 million proration on that voidable year as well. Now, the way that works is if they did not re-sign him, okay, that's how the cap is allocated currently. If they didn't re-sign him, then all of that proration would accelerate to the current year, making the cap hit for Kenny, even though he wasn't on the roster, $13.7 million. Okay, now we're talking 2025, not 2024. You can see his cap hit was 27.4 for 2024. Now, one thing to take into consideration here too is Tom Silverstein tweeted this out, and to the best of my knowledge, I've seen no one else cover this. He says, I can confirm Kenny Clark's new deal, and according to a source, it includes a $17.5 million signing bonus. Okay, so why is that important? what you've got here that you're going to be able to restructure, that signing bonus, you can spread it out however you want to amongst the current years of the contract. So what you're going to see happen, as you can see right here, those voidable years now become active years, right? And he's now going to become a free agent in 2028. So they just kind of put the skeleton in place, but the numbers aren't in yet, because you'll still see the 5.4, 5.4, 5.4, 5.4 as far as the restructure proration. I don't know how accurate that is right now. Shows the base salary of 15.5. You got a signing bonus of 5. I feel like that's just a placeholder, honestly. Roster / GM bonus, 750,000. That's if he makes a roster week 1. Workout bonus being there in the off season, 700 grand. And they're still showing the cap hit at this 27.4. But the reason I wanted to mention that is because if you go back to the old contract, Tim, you've already got 13.7 million in proration. All right. That's already been paid to Kenny, but it has to be allocated amongst the cap. Okay. So again, cash over cap. Cash is the money going to the player. Cap is the allocation, the booking of that money and how it's going to spread out over the cap. So if you've already got 13.7 million, and then you go back to the signing bonus tweet, so 13.7 plus the 17.5 million in new signing bonus, what you've essentially got is what, 21 million? Am I wrong? Or is that about right? No, it's more than that. What is it? Let's see here. You'd have 17.5, and then you've got 13.7. So you're looking at 30, right? 30 million in overall
31. Yeah,
31 in overall bonus money. So now how are they going to spread it out? That's the big question. Now, if you want to really dive into the weeds, and I don't want to go too far here because Spot Track's going to do all the legwork for us. There's no reason to dive into it too much. But if you look at the original tweet, you'll notice he says 29 million in 2024 in a done deal. So that kind of leads me to believe, and I'm not 100% sure, but maybe his cap hit will jump to 29 million in 2024. Does that make sense, Tim?
I think so. I mean, math is hard, and it's kind of hard right now. Like you said, this is kind of like putting things in place. I think this kind of it bodes well for the Jordan Love deal, because I feel like these probably go hand in hand. It looks like they're kind of I don't know, want to get this out of the way. And it looks like Kenny's, like you said, for all intents and purposes, this is somewhere between a 1 and 3 year deal overall. And I think it's setting up that future money to make room for Jordan Love's contract, obviously. So I think it's good for Green Bay right now. I really do. I think it's a safe deal. I think it makes sense. I think there's an argument to be made that, if Kenny wanted to play hardball, he probably could have a little bit. Mm-hmm. And he might have found a little bit, somewhere north of 27 to 29, 30 million somewhere else. But I'm glad he's a Packer. We drafted him. He was a young buck when he came here, and it'd be nice to see him play his entire career here in the green and gold.
Definitely. I've been very vocal that you guys know I felt like he's been overpaid. Now, anytime that I make that comment, I try to throw the caveat out there of, listen, I'm not saying I know more than Brian Gutekunst, Russ Ball, Matt LaFleur, everybody who's in on this deal. They love Kenny. There's no denying that. This contract speaks to that, right? So that gives me a lot of hope that they see Kenny in this new 4-3 front, and he's going to eat. Let's hope that's the case, right? I think it could be, like you said, Tim, anytime there's a 4-year deal, we say it's a 3-year deal. Anytime there's a 3-year deal, we say it's a 2-year deal. Seeing that guaranteed money of 17.9 along with that 13 million, this feels like a 2-year deal now that I've read that part. So, And what I mean by that, guys, it doesn't mean he's not going to play 3 years in Green Bay. It simply means, after 1 year, you can kind of get out of it if you need to. But you're still gonna be on the hook for cap penalties. Just not going to be as large as maybe that number leads you to believe. Because the reality is this too. Let me do this real quick. There was someone else, if I can find the tweet here, and I've got so many things on right here. This is Spot Track, I think it was Spot Track, however you say it. Spot Track says per a 3-year, $64 million extension with the Packers, Kenny Clark is now the 10th highest average paid defensive tackle. So if you take it over the entirety of the contract and you average it out on a per year basis, Kenny Clark is 10th in the league at 21.3. And some people are going, well, why is it that they're saying it's going to be 29 million this year? Because they're probably talking about the bonuses, but also if they're talking about cap hit, it sounds like it's going to be a bit front loaded. Now, why would you do that this year? Guys, we're like 30 million under the cap. eat a little bit of that now. And again, you may have him for 2 more years after this year, right? And then if for some reason he does hit the wall and he tapers off, you can get out of that 3rd year. It's just you'll probably get out with somewhere between, I don't know, probably $5 to $9 million in cap penalty, and therefore you're going to be freeing up over $20 million in cap space if you do need to move on. I don't think they'll want to do that, and if they're in a cap situation where if somehow, some way the cap were to go down, whether it's the Sunday ticket rumors or whatever, if something like that happens, then you guess what you can do? You can do what you did originally and tack on a couple of voidable years, spread the rest of that out, restructure it in that capacity. So again, over the average, I personally, and I wanted to mention this because Spot Track does a great job, I personally don't care about the per average. What I care about are 2 things: guaranteed money and cap hit allocation. Those are the 2 things that affect me the most as a Packers fan, right? And I know in the past when I've said that, people get upset because it's, oh, you need to report the whole thing. I got you. I understand it. It all matters. It's important. But those are the 2 numbers I really worry about. There's so many people that get upset over guaranteed money and not even understanding the structure of the contract, in which, yes, the guaranteed money's got to be paid, but if you get 3 years out of a 5-year deal, you cut bait. I'm only worried about the cap hit, man. Yeah, that's just me personally. So it's important to cover it all. That's for sure, though. So just wanted to kind of dive into that and explain what we know right now. And again, if we show that newest image here on Spot Track, 2024, the only thing they've got is the placeholders, essentially. So he is under contract through 2027, where he'll be 32 years old, right? And we should have that cap hit come in here real soon. Now, if that number does indeed blimp up to 29 million this year from 27.4, then you'll see that 10%, 10.76% cap percentage amongst the league cap. That'll go up slightly, but nothing crazy, right? So the gist of it all is you got your best defensive lineman, right? Your best interior defensive lineman. And we talk about this being a tier 1 position of importance. You got him under contract, kind of like a 2-year deal with the 3rd-year team options. What's it feeling like? Again, we'll hold that being concrete until Spot Track releases the exact structure of the contract. So on the surface, though, man, I feel pretty good about that. You guys know I've not been a big Kenny like, hey, man, we got to re-sign him. We got to re-sign him. Again, I trust Goody. I trust LaFleur and the guys. I think they know what the heck they're doing way more than me. The key statistics, the key analytics, the reason that I've always been hesitant with Kenny is, again, pressure percentage. He was 27th in the league last year, right? Now, if you were to go to cap hit, and this is important, okay? Again, I told y'all one of the main things that I'm interested in is cap hit, because that determines how much money you got to spend on the cap. Kenny Clark, before this deal, had the highest cap hit amongst defensive tackles at 27.4. There's a chance that goes up, but there's also a chance that they spread that out later and free up cap space this year. If they do that, it's like robbing Peter to pay Paul, Tim. You may do that to save some money right now on Kenny. But if you're doing that, you're probably doing that to go ahead and front load Jordan Love's contract. If you front load Kenny Clark's contract, you may be doing it in a way that Jordan Love's cap hit won't take a huge hit this year. Regardless, the cap rolls over every year, so it's not like you're gaining or losing money. The guaranteed money is what's got to be allocated for, and it's going to be there. So, but again, I just wanted to mention that he was the number 1 highest cap hit. He was 27th in pressure percentage. Right? If we remove the name and said, hey, this guy right here that's getting a $27.4 million cap hit is 27th in the league in pressure percentage amongst defensive tackles, you probably go, well, that ain't a good deal, right? I think we would all agree. Sacks combined, he was 10th. That's in the ballpark there. Okay, you're top 10 in sacks. All right, that makes sense. So that checks off. Broken/missed tackle percentage, he was 141st in the league. That sucks. That hurts. 10.2% missed tackle rate. And then, of course, the PFF grade, whether you like it or not, I threw it in there. He's the 35th highest graded interior defensive lineman at a 70.4 last year. Again, 34 jam. We had a lot of disgruntled people in that defense. It's a clean slate now. Maybe he jumps back up to that 80s, 90s. Like we said, I think there was 1 year there he graded out in the 80s that he was just phenomenal, maybe even 90s. So what that averages out to those 4 key statistics, analytics, whatever you want to call it, those are the 4 that I think are most important. Again, pressure percentage, sacks, broken/missed tackle percentage, and PFF grade. He averages out to the 53rd best defensive tackle. There's no way, Tim, based off this contract, that Brian Gutekunst thinks he's the 53rd best defensive tackle. And that's why I say I trust him over my personal opinion, you know.
I think about a lot of the things I saw last year with Kenny was him really emerging as a leader in that D-line room. And I think this is just as much of an investment long-term in our young talent there on that defensive front. I think of Carl Brooks. I think of, Kobe Wooden. I think of, even TJ. We don't know what's going to go on with TJ Slayton here long-term. But there's young talent in that group. And, Kenny's been here, he's a day one guy. I believe he's the oldest on the roster, right? Or as far as tenure. I don't think anyone's been a Packer longer than Kenny Clark on this roster.
Right.
Certainly a guy, much like I feel about Quay Walker and a few of the other veterans, is, we owe it to ourselves to see this man play in this new system, in this front, under Jeff Hafley in this new group. So I think the organization probably looked, just as much from some of those, intangibles and off the field things, what Kenny brings to that group and to the vision of that team and that defense moving forward. So it's a safe deal. It mutually beneficial deal. This is good for Kenny Clark. This is good for the Green Bay Packers. And so therefore it's good for us fans. That's just how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, definitely. So M. Smitty says, and again, these numbers here, this cap hit was before the deal that I've got on the screen here. I just wanted to kind of show where it was. I'm eager to see what it, whether they push some of that out or not. But M. Smitty said that 17.5 is huge, talking about the guarantee. I agree. That's what sweetened the pot to like what Tim was saying. Kenny could have tested the market, right? I think that 17.5 was kind of like, you know what? I kind of like Culver's, I kind of like these cheese curds up here. I think 17.5 is good enough for me, type thing. Fred McFarley said, fair deal for both sides, in my opinion. He'll give us a couple more good years and be off the books when it comes time to pay Brooks. That's kind of what it feels like, right? That's right in that time frame, about the time Kenny comes off the books or takes an extremely team-friendly deal and he's holding on and playing decent ball, then you can go ahead and extend that next contract for Carl Brooks if he continues to play the way he does. Him being Carl Brooks, obviously. Everything he's shown, telling you, man, I think he's I personally feel like he can be on Kenny Clark's level in a year or two. I agree. Watch the tape. When Carl Brooks on the field, Tim, he's a monster, dude.
He's poised for a huge jump this year. Like all signs point to the ascent to continue to rise with him. I mean, he's one of those guys. You hear that name, it's like it's one of the reasons you're so excited to see some football here coming up.
Yes.
Carl Brooks is on that short list of some of these guys that showed a lot of talent, a lot of flashes last season, and gives you a lot to look forward to this year.
Yeah. No doubt about it, man. No doubt about it. Let's see. Coach Lynn says Kenny is going to kill it in the 4-3. Man, I'll tell you, when we were in the nickel last year, I could be wrong, but based off what I've seen on tape, there wasn't a whole lot of two-gapping. But in that 34 jam, a lot of two-gapping, right? And Matt LaFleur kind of came out and talked about it, how, one back equals one gap. Not when you're in 34 jam. Obviously, I think he was referring to them playing teams that were heavy nickel. But regardless, now they don't even have to think about what set they're in. It's one gap and go, right? And that's what Coach Lynn's talking about. This dude's going to be able to play fast, play physical, and just get into his gap, attack the run on your way to the quarterback, man. And to me, that's the best type of defense for Kenny for sure. CJN says, sorry, I haven't seen the numbers. Are we saying it's loaded up front? CJN, we're saying we don't know yet, bub. We haven't heard the structure yet. We're still waiting on that to kind of drop. Again, we have the guaranteed money at 17.5, but keep in mind there was already 13.4 million that was on the books for avoidable years. That no longer has to accelerate to 2025. It will get spread out over the duration of the contract. I feel like, let me just say it this way, CJN. I think it's either going to be Jordan Love front loaded or it's going to be Kenny front loaded. Regardless, with Kenny, when we say front loaded, we're talking about cap hit allocation. That doesn't change the fact that if you decide to move on from him after 2 years, the guaranteed money is the guaranteed money, right? It's got to be accounted for. So, yeah. And I think he had another comment here. Let's see real quick. CJN says, so KC, third year and front loaded. Goody doesn't typically do that. So I'm questioning what I'm missing here. LOL. Yeah, right. And that's why I'm trying not to say too much until the cap hit details drop, right? Because the reality is, you're getting a lot of reports, right? You get some reports from Ian. Here's the deal. I feel like, me personally, all right, Ian's reporting came from the agency. Okay. So when you see that 29 million, I'm immediately thinking, okay, is that cap hit? And they're trying to make it sound like, hey, look, we just upped the bar from 27 to 29, right? When essentially that's not the case, because like our buddy over at Spot Track pointed out here, he's the 10th highest at 21.3 over the average. So you see how the insiders that get the information from the agency, they show the inflated number, right? And then you got some people like Spot Track that say, well, over the average duration of the contract, it's only 21.3. And then you got others that are talking about whether it's front loaded, back loaded. It all matters. But for me, it's all about that cap hit, personally. So, all right, let's see here. So I know what you're saying, though. It's going to be interesting to see how it does play out there for sure. AFAM says, do they charge people in Green Bay to watch practice? Curious. I got in a bar argument with someone that the Chiefs suck because they charge people to watch practice. Tim, take this question, sir.
No charge. It is absolutely free to attend the public practices at Ray Nitschke Field and all of the facilities. Parking's even free. You can park right in the Lambeau Field parking lots. It's open, first come, first serve. So yeah, no, the Packers do not charge to watch practice during public practices. So I guess you're correct. The Chiefs suck, because they do.
There you go. Let's see. Jarrell Lee in the chat said, let's go, Kenny. 4-3 NFL. Look out. Carl Brooks tape is amazing. Completely agree. Omer says Brooks is a stud. Carl Brooks, if someone were to say, Clayton, I want to go buy a jersey, who should I grab? He's one of those. Him, Dontavian Wicks is another that I feel like, man, and especially with the next news we're going to cover here about Jaden Reed, it's going to kind of give Wicks a leg up. I'm not saying he will surpass Jaden Reed on the depth chart. I just think it's going to give him an opportunity to really showcase his skills in that year two jump. And what I love about this is Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks are like best friends on the team. So there's no like, I'm going to take your job competition. It's making each other better. Obviously, they worked out together in the offseason, but we'll get to that here in a second. Josh in the chat says, Kenny is the last of Ted Thompson's picks on the roster. I did not realize it. Man, that's going back, ain't it, Tim? That's going back.
Yeah. It's crazy how fast time flies. And then you take a minute and you see something like this and you look back and you go, wow. Yeah. Kenny Clark was 2018. When was he drafted? 17?
I can't even remember.
16? I'm trying to. It's making me think of this. I'm trying to pull up his bio here. 9 years in the league, so I guess let's do the math on that.
Holy cow, dude! That's crazy.
Yeah,
it's gonna be his 9th year, right?
9th year, yeah. So yeah, the last of the Mohicans of the Ted Thompson picks. Rest in peace, Ted Thompson.
Yeah, the GOAT.
The GOAT.
Eric Sutherland. Love 10-year, $550 million guaranteed. Eric, you're drunk again, sir. Please leave the chat. Let's hope it's not that, right?
You think he signs that one, Clayton? I think he'd sign that deal.
I think I can help him sign it. If he needs help, I'll fly up real quick. I'll forge his name for him. You know what I'm saying? Just give me 0.1%. That's all I need. 0.1%. That'll keep the lights
exactly.
on. Fred McFarley says, how hurt is Reed? Do we know? So there we go. That's our next topic. We'll jump right into it. If I can stay organized here, I'm all over the map as far as how I usually run the show. So this came down the pike from Tom Silverstein. Okay. According to NFL Transaction Wire, Packers place wide receiver Jaden Reed, cornerback Corey Ballantyne, and offensive tackle Caleb Jones on active/non-football injury list. Means they developed something while away from the facility and won't practice Monday. Injuries may not be serious, but you never know. All right, so I just want to say this. We got a bunch of people in here. If you would, do us a big favor. Just take a brief second, hit that like button for us. It'll help boost the algae and get other Packer fans to help them find this channel, find this content. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us here on this Sunday evening. I think it's Sunday. That is correct. Look at me, man. I'm on top of it tonight. So
it's Sunday?
Yeah, exactly. I heard someone say it was personal reasons for Jaden Reed. Now, that was in the chat. and they'll remain nameless because I don't want to put them on the spot. They may have been joking or what have you, but the fact is something's going on there where he's having to miss. Now, I will say this: we actually had a video pop up the other day. This was on the 19th where he was in Madison, Tim, and he was doing a football camp. So he looked fine there, right? So, and I want to play the video, but YouTube is so, they so iffy on whether or not they're going to trigger a copyright or not. We better not play it. But nonetheless, Jaden Reed was out there throwing it around with the kids the other day, just on the 19th. Unless this was pre-recorded, this dropped on the 19th. So I'm hoping it is just personal reasons and nothing huge. But regardless, he is going to start, like Tom Silverstein said, he's going to start on the active non-football injury list, which means something did happen. And again, that might be their way of covering up just a personal issue or something, right? It could be.
Right.
But regardless, so Tim, it's not something you want to hear because, Jaden Reed was just, man, that dude, he looked dynamic last year, man.
Oh, Bird is the man, dude. That guy is phenomenal to watch and another rising star in this league and on this team. So let's hope it's not an injury. Let's hope, as messed up as it sounds, hopefully it is just something personal that he can work through and get back out there. But you hate to see guys this time of year falling into these onto these lists, especially guys like Jaden Reed.
Yeah, definitely. So we're getting some comments in the chat here that kind of makes you think it wasn't injury related. Ron Samble said Reed looked fine at his camp yesterday, so that's what he was kind of talking about. Let's hold off on that and we'll come back to it. John said Reed's not hurt. Didn't give any great detail there, but hopefully that's the case, man. Hopefully it is just something personal and he's taking care of business and he's going to be right back out there for sure. So CJM with some colorful language in here said, holy poopy. That's my high school. Monona Grove Silver Eagles. Shout out to the Silver Eagles, man. Absolutely dominate their whatever you call it, conference or whatever. Tim, you know anything about the Silver Eagles, bro?
No, I am not. I'm not hip to their game. CJM's gonna have to put me up on that.
I bet CJM was a star long snapper there. You think? Got in my mind. All right, so that's kind of the Reed talk there. We'll stick with it here in a second. I want to get to some of these other guys on the list. Now, Ian Rappaport tweeted this out as well. He said, some of today's pre-training camp transactions, including Packers wide receiver Jaden Reed, going on NFI. Okay, so it shows in Detroit, you've got Giovanni Manu. You guys remember him? I think the Packers had him on their radar. He might have been like a top, whatever it was, top visit before the draft. That could have been the case. I just remember his name getting mentioned because he was from British Columbia up there in Canada. But Green Bay, Corey Ballantyne, okay, you got Caleb Jones, tackle, and then you got Jaden Reed, wide receiver. So Caleb Jones, like Coach Lynn said here, not good for Caleb Jones, always hurt. Man, and here's the thing, Coach, and we've talked about this, Tim. That dude is so huge, man. Like, so if I put on an extra 10, 15 pounds, my back hurts. These guys that are carrying 320, 330 pounds, I don't know how they do it, man. But one thing about Caleb, yeah, unfortunately, he's been a little banged up, like Coach Lynn's saying, and this is not the year to go into that camp banged up, Tim, because they got some serious competition in the O-line room.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, like Coach Lynn is saying, more of the same from Caleb. I believe last year, I think he had, I want to say, was it a hamstring?
Mm-hmm.
Hamstring issue, like one of the many we had last year. And then he had some illness too. He was dealing with just some, illness type things. But hey, you can't make the club in the tub, right? We've said that, 1,000 times. So I like Caleb. Caleb's a good dude. He's fun to be around when you're at the facility. Great guy, really good with the fans, easy to talk to, real personable dude, good teammate. You can tell he gets along with his teammates, but that's all fine and dandy, but if you can't play football, what are we here for, So hopefully he works his way back because you hit it on the head, man. This is a hyper competitive O-line room for sure, especially at the tackle positions right now.
Mm-hmm. Eric Sutherland in the chat says Bill Huber said Reed is fine and will be at practice this week. So I just pulled the article just a second ago. Let's see if we can pop it up on the screen here. Appreciate that, Eric. I think this is what you're talking about, buddy. Look at Eric actually talking serious ball in here, man. Growing and changing every day, man. Let me tell you. All right. So this was Bill Huber's article that he wrote. This is probably roughly an hour and a half ago now, I'm guessing. Top playmaker opens training camp on non-football injury list. It says Green Bay Packers receiver Jayden Reed, who led the team in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns as a rookie. Let me say that one more time. Jayden Reed, who led the team in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns as a rookie, is fine, a source said. All right. It says Green Bay, Wisconsin, second-year receiver Jayden Reed will open Green Bay Packers training camp on the non-football injury list. Veteran players arrived for the start of training camp on Sunday, with the first practice of camp set for Monday. Reed will be joined on NFI by valuable backup cornerback Corey Ballantyne and offensive tackle Caleb Jones. All three players can begin practicing once cleared by the team. He goes on to say they are joined by a few other players on the pre-camp injury report. Rest easy, though. Looky here. Eric Sutherland broke the news. Rest easy, though. A source said Reed is, quote, totally fine and should be on the practice field in a few days. A second-round pick last year, Reed led the Packers in receptions, receiving yards, and total touchdowns and was tied for first in receiving touchdowns last season. Reed broke Sterling Sharp's franchise record for most receptions by a rookie. That is just wild to me. Reed broke Sterling Sharp's franchise record for most receptions by a rookie. Reed joined Packers legends Sharp, James Lofton, Billy Houghton, Don Hudson, and Joe Laws as the only rookies to lead the team in receiving yards. It says the numbers showed Reed's dominance. Sharp is one of the best receivers in NFL history. Needs to be in the Hall of Fame, by the way. Is this thing on? Needs to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Say that again. Sterling Sharp into the Hall of Fame.
So it says Reed crushed his rookie record of 55 receptions by catching 64. So beat it by 9 catches. Among NFL rookie receivers last year, only the Colts' Josh Downs had more slot receptions than Reed. While Downs had 51 receptions to Reed's 44, Reed crushed Downs in yards, 653 to 594 yards per catch, 14.8 yards per catch, as opposed to Downs' 11.6, and touchdowns. He had 7 touchdowns, and old Downs had the big gooser, 0. So obviously Jayden Reed dominating last year, man. We won't read the entire article. Make sure you guys go show Bill Huber some love and give that a like on Twitter and all that. But Tim, sounds like there's nothing to see there, man. I think I'm more concerned with Ballantyne and our boy, gosh, what's his name? I've already forgot. Caleb Jones, right?
Caleb Jones. Yeah, and certainly of those two, Ballantyne is obviously, a guy that's going to start for you potentially, especially in a pinch as you grind through a year. So you want guys to start the year on a good foot. Obviously, camp starts tomorrow. We all know, it's a lot of running and stretching and install and those kind of things. The pads don't come on right away. So nothing too intense to get started, which is good. So hopefully these guys are all available here by the time we start grinding towards that first preseason game on the 10th of August.
Definitely. All right. So let's stay with the receiver theme, and then we're going to come back to a comment here in a second from our boy Fred McFarley. We'll hit on that news. It's so cool, man. You seeing all this news compiled, Tim, right on the eve of camp, and then we're going to start getting answers. We're going to get updates. It's going to be awesome. I'm telling you, man, that daddy soda, that ice cold daddy soda drinks a little bit better when you get home from a hard day's work and you're listening to camp updates while you're grilling before the show here. It's just the hardest thing for me to stay awake for this show. This show's so boring compared to everything else that's going on. You know what I mean? But since it is boring, hey, you guys hit that like button for us. We greatly appreciate it.
It's gonna ramp up here. Camp is here tomorrow, man. Looking forward to it.
Not including Rumble. I don't know how many people are watching on Rumble right now, but we've got 354 watching live right now. You could tell people just woke up and said, "Oh, that's right, it's football season. All right, let's go."
That's right.
So, appreciate that. All right, so this was on the 33rd team's website. Just want to touch it real quick since we were talking about Jayden Reed. They talked about the best camp battles, the most anticipated camp battles for all 32 teams. And they basically picked the wide receiver room, they being the 33rd team website, picked the wide receiver room for the Green Bay Packers. Here's what it says, Tim. The Green Bay Packers boast a talented group of wide receivers for emerging quarterback Jordan Love to throw to, which he did with great success in the second half of the season of last season and the playoffs. There's no established order entering the season for this group, which includes Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jayden Reed, and Dontavian Wicks as the presumed top 4. Bo Melton adds further quality depth, However, only 2 receivers will be on the field when Green Bay utilizes 2 tight ends, what we refer to as 12 personnel here. And even in 3 wide receiver sets, one of these 4 will be on the sideline. That could be the former second rounder Watson if he can't stay healthy after missing 8 games last season with hamstring issues. Reed was the team's leading receiver last year with 64 receptions for 793 yards and 8 touchdowns as a rookie second rounder. Dobbs also had 8 touchdown grabs, stud, in the regular season among his 59 catches for 674 yards and 12 catches for 234 yards in 2 playoff games. Just playoff roams right there, Tim. 2 playoff games, Romeo Dobbs, 12 catches, 234 yards. I mean, just shows up when the lights come on, man. When Jordan needs a play, he seems to go to Rome, don't he? Whether he's covered or not, man.
Yeah, it's like you said, think play or not play. I mean, that's a comfort level, and I'm sure he's got relationships like that with some of these other pass catchers too that we're going to see develop over the course of his second year as a starter, building that chemistry. I really believe Scoot's one of those guys too. We saw our season end with him trying to force the ball to Christian Watson there. So when Watson is on the field, I believe he's kind of one of those comfort targets for Jordan as well. But yeah, Rome is the man. He's quiet as kept, man. He might be my favorite receiver in this group, honestly.
Yeah. Heck yeah, dude. Watt09009 in the chat says, I believe the O-line will be more competitive, but I could be wrong. That's what we were just talking about for poor Caleb Jones, kind of coming in and starting on the NFI. That's going to be so competitive, Wyatt. There's no doubt about it, man. I just want Jordan Morgan, no matter what happens, I just want Jordan Morgan to just come out and absolutely kick ass, man. I want to hear report after report that, man, this dude gets it, right? That's what I want to hear coming out of camp, because if he does indeed get it and Zach Tom gets healthy, we're off to the races, man.
Yep.
And again, we'll talk about that a little bit here in a second too, with Tucker Kraft and Zach Tom injuries, at least what we know up to this point. But appreciate you hanging out with us, Wyatt, man. Good to see you in here. Let's see here. M. Smitty says, speaking of grilling, Clayton, did burgers, brats, and bacon wrapped turkey breast. Bacon wrapped turkey breasts. Let's go. You kidding me? That's how I do my Thanksgiving turkeys, Tim. I literally spend more money on the amount of bacon I wrap that turkey with than I do the turkey itself, man. Then you pull that bacon off after cooking for what feels like 72 hours, because you smell it all day long. You're starving to death, hungry as a hostage, hanging out in the living room, Mandy going, stay out of the kitchen. But you take that bacon, as I learned this from my man, God, what's his name? The British chef that used to have the show, still has the shows. What's his name? Gordon Ramsay. Yeah. So you take that bacon and you put it in that juice and you mash it up real good and you make you a gravy with that. Oh my God. Only I can take something healthy like turkey and make it so unhealthy, bro.
You got a 12-pound turkey wrapped in 30 pounds of bacon.
I'm telling you, man. Hey, you got to play to win, Tim. You know what I'm saying? You got to play to win. All right. So receiver room battle going to be exciting for sure. Now, we were just talking about the offensive line. I'm
not ready to move on to O-line yet. Can you pop that up real quick?
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Something caught my eye, made me kind of happy here. We see Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Jayden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, right, as the presumed top 4. And this is a Bill Huber article. Who did this?
Correct. No, this is 33rd team.
33rd team. Okay, so 33rd team knows ball. So this is accurate. I think it's a safe bet. But there's names on here that are names that are not on this article, and guys that I believe have a legitimate shot to make this football team. And that's guys like Malik Heath, one of my favorites in the receiving room. Grant DeBose, a guy who has injuries robbed him of opportunities last year. An extremely, extremely talented young receiver in Grant DeBose. I think it's something to be said that it's the sheer depth of this receiver room is what's going to make the battle so interesting, in my opinion. And, you never know what happens as you get through camp and through the preseason when, you get injuries that aren't necessarily long-term injuries, but they can steal the preseason game from you, or they can steal reps from you during camp, and somebody else can step up and play well. And before you know it, you're down the depth chart. It's just how football works. It happens sometimes. So it makes me feel good to know that beyond the, the core four or the top four, we've arguably have, another four in camp already that are going to compete. And it just makes it exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I love this. Jake in the chat. Jake G126 says, "What's up, PTA? Finally caught a live show."
Hey, me too. What's up, Jake?
He said, "I come in and we talking bacon. Let's go." You're in the right place here, brother. You in the right place. We're all working on that double chin, except for Tim. Tim could eat 7,500 pounds of meat and not gain a pound. I'm so damn jealous. I can't stand it, dude.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Become a type 1 diabetic. It's crazy how this works, man. You just got them good genes, I guess, Tim. I don't know, man. Let's see. Roger Davis says, "I thought Myers was a stud." He got emotional. I thought
you couldn't even say that with a straight face. Look,
what's funny is I was eating peanuts and one kicked me in the back of the throat. But that's funny that it was about Myers. That's hilarious. I thought Myers was a stud when we drafted him. Again, I know nothing. Hey, Myers fooled us all, man. And listen, let's hope he turns it around this year, right? We keep talking about that, but it's just it's tough, man. It's a tough look because he's not been good, man. I don't know how else to say it. I know everybody's like, "Wow, that's great insight, Clayton." He's not been good, but it's just great. I don't want to say great. A pretty good pass blocker previous years. Last year's pass blocking takes a hit, and obviously the run blocking and run blocking at the second level. He's got all the physical tools and traits to get to the second level. We just can't finish.
We could reach and be positive. I'll say this: we've come a long way from snap the freaking ball, Josh.
That is a great point.
So, I mean, I guess a grasp of Matt LaFleur's system and the cadence at the line and what we need to do and down and distance situations. I think the technical aspect of his game has improved. He's not making these foolish mistakes at the line of scrimmage anymore. But yeah, lo and behold, if you could maybe block a guy here and there, that would help.
So elegantly put there, Tim. Oh my God. I'll tell you somebody else though who is getting a lot of attention is Wicks and Musgrave. This is kind of cool that this came across the wire here. 33rd team tweeted this out, said, "Make sure you snag all these guys in your fantasy drafts." Okay. And this is what it says: league winning fantasy football sleepers via Marcus Mosher. All right. They're saying Zamir White from the Vegas Raiders. Got him old. You're taking Jackson Smith and Jigba from the Seattle Seahawks. Tony Pollard, longtime Cowboy, who's now with the Titans, probably been there a couple of years now. I lose track of that. And then 2 Green Bay Packers make this list. Dontavian Wicks, a guy that I think is the number 1 receiver. I've said it since last year.
I don't know how many people are sleeping on Tay Wicks, and they certainly won't be after this season. But
exactly, and you'd be surprised at how many people don't. Which we follow the Packers, we're going to pick up on it. But I'm telling you, man, if you made me bet the farm on, hey, look, here's the guy in 2 years, it's going to be the number 1 receiver in Green Bay. When I say number 1, I don't buy into the whole number 1, just chuck and duck, throw it up to the guy. I'm talking about the best. The most well-rounded, talented wide receiver. He just pops off the screen to me, man. He's just performs at an elite level on third downs. He's a great slot receiver, although he can play on the outside as well. In the slots where you want him, he's got so much wiggle. He's got more wiggle than Jacob on a dance floor. I'm just telling you right now. That dude knows how to shake it open, man. Dontavian Wicks, not that sounded bad. Jacob shaking it open on the dance floor. Never mind. Anyway. Luke Musgrave.
That's what he's doing right now. That's why he's not on the show tonight.
Man, I worry when Jacob goes missing. I'm waiting to get that phone call. You know what I'm saying? I'm waiting to get that call. Hey, Clayton, can you
have a collect call from
Brown County Jail or whatever it is. So, no, I'm sure he's fine. Jacob's a busy man, but you got a lot of ladies chasing him around too. We'll just leave it at that. But anyway, Luke Musgrave is also on this list. That one I'm a little more hesitant on, Tim. But I'll tell you, man, when we looked at the numbers the other day and some of the things he did on a limited basis too, battling injuries and I don't know, internal bleeding, tough son of a gun he is. If they do hit on these two and they take that step forward, holy cow, bro. 11 personnel and like they said, 12 personnel with the emergence of Tucker Kraft as well. Going to be phenomenal, man. Going to be phenomenal.
Musgrave stayed on his feet.
I love it. What do you think, man? Do you think Musgrave will be tight end one, or do you think it's kind of like what Tucker Kraft said, like, hey, we don't see ourselves above or below each other. We kind of play together and we're there to help each other out.
I feel that way across the board about this football team. I really do. It's tough. Like you said, it's tough to ID a bona fide number one wide receiver. It's tough to pick a bona fide number one tight end. Um, we could be a couple weeks into the season. We may be scratching our heads watching our running backs and wondering who number one is when we see what Marshawn Lloyd looks like out there with Josh Jacobs. So, I think that's the right attitude. I'm with Tuck Norris there. There is no number one. It's tight end room by committee. It's running back room by committee, linebacker room by committee. We play as a unit. Everyone can take a turn at being number one. We saw that last year. You had games where, Musgrave was that dude. And then you had games where Tucker Kraft stepped up weeks on end and was just playing phenomenal football. That's what you want. You want guys that are making everyone around them better. They feed off each other. They want to see each other succeed. There's none of that animosity or, negative competition within your organization. You want to see guys going out there, laying it out on the line, for each other, playing ball for each other. So, to answer your question, no, I don't know if Luke Musgrave is the number one tight end. I don't know if it matters if we have one, I guess. But I think for a lot of other teams in the NFL, Luke Musgrave would be their number one tight end for sure. He just happens to be here in Green Bay with a stacked offense and a lot of talent around him. So it's going to be fun to see him though this year.
And a stud quarterback just dropping dimes to him, man. Absolutely.
That's right, Jay Money.
If you guys would, we got a bunch of people watching here. Let's see if we can get this thing to 100 live viewers on YouTube. Just hit that like button for us. Feel free to share it, but hit the like button. It'll boost the algorithm, put it on everybody's homepage. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us. We're about to wrap up, but thank y'all so much for supporting the show. We really appreciate it. So go from Luke Musgrave to the other tight end. This is a question that Fred McFarley asked. Are Kraft or Tom ready to roll or still healing their pecs? So here's the deal that I've heard with Kraft and Tom. Kraft tore his pec 2 weeks after Tom. All right. The early diagnosis was after each of them got, if I understood correctly, they both got surgery. They were predicting that Tom would be ready for training camp. I think with Tom being such a well-established player on this team, they'll kind of hold back a touch, right? Play that safe. And again, let Jordan Morgan, some of these guys compete at camp. You know what you got with Tom. He's a stud. That dude's about to get paid some serious money, and rightfully so. And I'm glad he is, because I'm telling you, he's one of my favorite players. Let him heal up. Take it slow. So I would be surprised if we see him until maybe the final preseason week. If he does come back, that means he is 110% good to go, right? But again, if it was somebody like Tim, I'm not trying to dog him. I think he's a good player. If it was Rasheed Walker, I'd be going, man, we need those camp reps. But the fact that it's Tom, I feel a lot more comfortable. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think the organization learned a lot from the David Bakhtiari experience. We'll just call it that, the ups and downs of a super talented guy trying to get back from an injury. And you could see there towards the end with Big Dave, there was no pressure at all to get him out onto that practice field, especially last year. I think we saw him at a couple of training camp practices. And what happened? He went out in week one and just absolutely dog walked the Chicago Bears. So there are players that reach that level where, practice is vital like it is to anyone, but you don't need to rush these guys out there. Their most valuable time is meaningful football during the season or during the playoffs or, when it matters. So Zach Tom's a guy who could certainly miss a few training camps and, get his legs under him within a few days and be right up to game speed. So, and that presents opportunity for guys like, these rookies that we have coming in, Jordan Morgan, and a few other guys, plug and play, move them around the line. Might give a chance to see, Sean Ryan kick in the center and then maybe, stick someone over on the right side, mix it up a little bit. It's good for our coaching staff as well, too. And then, Zach Tom gets the added bonus of maybe he's cleared to be out there, but hey, there's no rush. Take a little extra time. Be 110% when you come back. So I think this is going to bode well for us going into camp. And I think the Packers learned a lot with how to deal with these injuries with our big O linemen for sure.
Yeah. And when it comes to Tucker Kraft, obviously he's 2 weeks behind Zach Tom, I don't think they're going to try to rush him back. So I
Yeah.
think something that I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here or being too optimistic, Tim, but I kind of feel like there is very, very, very little chance that these guys won't be ready for week one. I think they're going to be good to go week one. I think they're going to just kind of play it safe, let Tucker stay in that playbook. Here's the other thing. You're going to get a really good look at Tyler Davis if he's completely healthy with that knee. We've seen what Ben Sims could do. I really like him as a player. You've also got Henry Pearson if you want to kind of lean into a little 21 personnel, little, two running backs, one tight end look. So you can kind of work that stuff in and see what those guys have while Tucker Kraft heals up. I think we know what we got in Tucker. I'm not saying he's on Zach Tom's level, but that dude, guys, he didn't have a drop all season until the playoffs. That might not have even counted as a drop because it was kind of an inaccurate throw. But nonetheless, when you look at a guy, you go, okay, you look at the scouting report on Tucker Kraft, Tim, you're going to go, what's his big selling point? His athletic ability, hands down. He had an RAS soaring in the nines, right? But then you look at the end of the season and go, hold up, this dude didn't drop a single ball. Like, come on.
And have you seen him coming around the corner and blocking? Have you seen that? I mean,
or the article where he was interviewed and said, my favorite thing is blocking someone, and as they hit the ground, feeling the air leave their body is what he said. Like, bro, he's out there posing for pictures, ice fishing with lung darts. Are we serious? Let's get this dude a lifetime contract, man. Let's go ahead.
And you know what? It's testament to Matt LaFleur's offense, right?
It is.
Tight end in a Matt LaFleur offense is a blue collar position. Okay, this is grab your lunch pail, let's get to work, and after you lay a few guys out, run a couple sifts, we'll keep the offense rolling. Yeah, I'm gonna dial up a little tutter for you, give you a couple of targets in the pass game, and we're gonna get some first downs and some touchdowns and. Celebrate with a daddy soda. That's what playing tight end in Green Bay is. Not everybody runs their offense that way. Even look at the Niners with Kittle. A lot of times Kittle is just, he's another receiver out there basically most of the time. But we use our guys, a lot more down and dirty, I think. And, to the point about Ben Sims and even, Henry Pearson, man, we got to see some from those guys and they fit in very well in this Matt LaFleur offense too. And, don't count out Tyler Davis. Great point, Clayton. Great point. A guy who knows the system. And you can't tell me he's not hungry and ready to be back out here on the field. So you're going to get 110% out of Tyler Davis and a guy who's not new to this scene. And I don't think the moment's going to be too big for him. So we could have a little competition there in the tight end room as we're waiting for guys to, work back these little nagging injuries here.
Yeah, no doubt. M. Smitty in the chat said, shout out to Tuck Norris and the Jackrabbits. Amen. Jarrell Lee says, I haven't seen this much talent since 2010, and we all know how that season ended with the green heart emoji. I'll tell you, man, and Omer says this team stays healthy, they're going to roll this league. I really do. I try to be – you guys know I've been labeled multiple times as the positive podcaster, right? Because I'm just not going to harp on negative stuff. Life's too short. I'll try to focus on the positive. We'll deal with the negative. But this year just feels, Tim, it feels a little – last year going in the league, if you were to go back and listen to the show, and we did them all live, this time last year, it's, hey, we're playing with the house's money, baby. Nobody's expecting us to do anything. They're expecting us to finish dead last in the North. That's what the Vegas odds suggested. We had the worst odds to win the North, if that makes sense, at the time we did the training camp show. So you look at it this year, you're going 10, 12, maybe 13 wins. This year feeling a lot better about this team. Now, listen, any given Sunday, you got to go out there and put it together. I think we got the 22nd hardest schedule, so that kind of favors the Packers just a touch too, for what it's worth. You get 3 weeks into the season, there's nobody going, hey, we got an easy schedule. They're looking up at their next opponent going, all right, they do this well, they do this bad, let's try to exploit this. Nobody cares about that strength of schedule. That's why I don't focus on DVOA and all that stuff, because from week to week, 1 week it'll say one thing, 3 weeks later it says something else, and it's like, what are we even doing here, right? So, but yeah.
And of any team in the NFL, the Packers are going to be the team that picks up where they left off, like last year. I mean, we arguably haven't even seen the best of this Packers offense and defense here. We got a new system on the defensive side of the ball. LaFleur's got new weapons on the offensive side of the ball this year. They're going to take another step. We were one goofy series away from, a trip to the NFC title game, honestly. And that was a team that we had, like you said, we had tempered expectations last year. Hey, are they going to win? How many games are they going to win? Yeah, maybe we can make the playoffs. We got really close and got on a hot streak, and these guys are playing for each other. I think we're going to start this year with that same intensity and same energy. I really do.
I agree, man, completely. All right, we'll end it with this. J. Cole says, I think we will get the J Love news tomorrow. That's what many people kind of predicted, that, hey, just like they did Kenny several years ago, contract reported, bang, he hits the practice field. We're off and running. I think there's a good possibility of that, seeing that Kenny's got done today. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if it takes another 2 weeks, but hopefully tomorrow we're reporting that, right? That's what I'm hoping for anyway. So, Tim, you got anything else you want to hit on, bub, before we get out of here?
Just the J Money contract. Yeah, I would love for it to be tomorrow, right? Any day now. Just let's please get this news so we can move forward. But I think certainly before the first preseason game, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, at the very latest, another week or two. But I don't think we play preseason ball without a Jordan Love extension. That's as close as I'll give you to a prediction. But I'm hoping everyone's right. Hopefully it's tomorrow. That's the first news we get in the morning before practice. That would be great. If
you were to ask me how sure am I that the contract will get done tomorrow, I'd say somewhere around
65%.
65%. That's what somewhere in that ballpark. So I think it'll get done sooner than later. It might take a couple weeks, maybe surprise tomorrow. But nonetheless.
And if you asked me, I would say,
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
I love it. And if you ask Jacob, he would say,
cheese curds make my stomach hurt all the time, but I do eat them though.
All right, we're out of here. Jacob going to get slandered when he's not here. We can't wait to get the beard back in.
Jacob.
Yeah. It's patent move. All right, we're out of here, guys. Thank y'all so much. Listen, I can't seriously. Please don't think we don't appreciate y'all. We got over 400 people watching live, and this is the highlight of my day, man. It's been a rough month. Lost my brother. It's been tough, and I'm telling you, everybody in the chat, everybody who watches, Tim, Jacob, Emilio, everyone who hangs out here on the show, you guys have helped more than you know. And just know, I'm not going to get emotional on here. I appreciate you guys and gals. Thank y'all so much for this awesome community that we've all created together for sure. So with that being said,
we appreciate you too, Clayton, and what you do for us. Absolutely. You're the engine that drives this shit, man. So you're appreciated too. It's important you know that, brother.
I appreciate that, man. And it's going to be a fun year, man. Tomorrow it starts. So everybody have a wonderful evening. We will see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central Time, possibly talking a big contract. If not, we're going to be talking camp updates, all that good stuff. So we made it, boys. It's football season. But again, thanks to everybody. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. We're doing a giveaway tomorrow. Go Pack Go.